Generation STEM is brought to you thanks to the help from the National Science Foundation and its collaborative association with the Center for Games and Impact, VEME, Eline Media, Haku, and Arizona State University.
Hello and welcome to Generation STEM, a series that explores the world of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, or STEM. My name is Gabriel Salgado, and I want to take you on this journey where we will feature some of the best stories that we've had throughout this series. We are going to start with meteorology, the science that studies our atmosphere and that we all use when we want to know about the weather. In this story, Ariel Rodriguez will tell us about how he decided to be a meteorologist, his experience, and his career.
The weather changes completely every now and then because it's changing all the time. What's going on now is completely different to what's happening 5 minutes from now, especially if you live in the Midwest or you live in Texas. When I got to the US, I was a teenager, and here I actually saw the real opportunity, and that's when I pursued it. I was lucky enough to get a scholarship, and it paid for the first 2 years of college. But the science, it's hard. You have to study a lot of math, a lot of physics. I actually ended up with a minor in math and a minor in physics. The first class I had, it was in a big auditorium. It was about 150 people or so. And 4 years afterwards, we were about 34 people. That's the graduating class. The challenge of forecasting and getting it right. You don't always get it right, but you try to get it, as best as you can.
El viernes, condiciones relativamente menos inestables.
We've come a long way since satellites were launched in the 50s and 60s, that meteorology has advanced enormously. In this computer, for example, we're seeing the infrared satellite image. This tells us the temperature of the clouds on the top of the clouds. The colder they are, the more likely they are to have heavy rain, thunderstorms. Here, the redder they are, the colder they get. Here, this is our system. We call it MAX. It's from the OLSI. Basically, here we draw the front. We show the whole meteorological, conditions at the moment. We do our forecast here as well. And here, it's another computer that we get the alerts, the weather alerts. The latest one, it's the aviation forecast from the National Weather Service. They get the raw data, all the information from satellites, from the sondes that they send every day. And in our case, we have to translate all that very scientific knowledge into something that the general public can understand. So I tell myself every day before I go on TV, your grandmother has to be able to understand that. And she's like my audience. Like, I call her and I asked her, did you understand it? And she's like, yeah, you said this, this, and that. So if I accomplished that, it means I did a good job. So this is basically what we call the green screen or the chroma key. What I see all the time behind me, it's a green screen. I can't see my maps. I see my maps here. This is my reference. To my left and to my right, it's the monitor. And also in the front of me, I see myself. And those are the 3 points, what I look at. That's how I know that basically what I'm looking here is the front, and here's Florida, and here's the rain. So it's basically like being a mime. I have to make sure that I point to the right direction. It takes a little bit of practice. Sometimes you have to fake it a little bit because, I have to turn my head so that it looks like I'm looking behind me without giving my back to the audience. So it takes a little practice, but, you make do. So basically our mornings are pretty hectic. We do 2 weather forecasts for the radio, ESPN radio, and right now I just did 94.9. It's another local Miami FM station. So I tape their forecasts in my phone with this little microphone and I send it over to them. It is, it's an art. Everything has an art to it. It's a lot of science, but it's like a picture that you look at and it changes every day, all the time, and you have to try to see how it's going to change and predict how it's going to look tomorrow. Right now, we still need more investments. We need the government to keep investing, the private sector to keep growing, and it's a very hard business because you have to try to know what's going to happen in a big chunk of atmosphere, and you have different points, and you pretty much try to project that into the future. We need a lot of scientists, we need a lot of Hispanics, a lot of females, because that's also a challenge.
When we come back, we'll meet a young student who proudly tells us that he will be the first one in his family to get a college degree. Our next story is about a student in San Antonio, Texas, who wants to be a dentist. He enrolled in a high school that specializes in STEM careers, and he tells us what he has learned and his plans for the future.
My name is Brian Zarate, and I go to STEM Early College High School, and I want to study dentistry. My grandpa was a dentist in Mexico, and he was my inspiration, the one who put me on the path to dentistry.
Think about it like a store. You walk into a store and it's disorganized in a mess.
The classes help us a lot to understand the things we're gonna see in the future. We gotta learn science, biology, chemistry, every subject, everything we need to know for our careers, for our future. My parents decided to come to the United States, but I came here alone, on my own. So I spent a year here without my mom, without my dad, just with my cousin and my grandma. It was really difficult. I didn't know any English. And now to be taking college-level classes at a university level 5 years later, it's a lot. It's a lot of progress. I'm the first one that will graduate from college. My mom graduated from high school, and so did my dad. My middle school counselor told me, oh, well, there's this new program. It starts in like a year, and I would like to tell you about it. And so I said, yeah, okay, let's try it out. Well, that's what impressed me, was that there were a lot of group projects together. Everyone put in hours and hours working on just one project. They're all dedicated, not just me, but my classmates as well. We make robots that can go underwater, and we make robots that are really big and can calculate equations that are too complicated for a normal robot. And not just that, they work and they win competitions. I made the cables and parts and cut up the parts, and I used a lot of the tools. Knowing if it doesn't work, you just have to do it all over again. It has to be built, and then you do it again. We only have about 6 weeks, which is predominantly what an engineer has also to make something new. Ms. Chavez is the counselor, and I don't know what we would do without her. She's amazing. She gives us information, she gives us a lot of information and a lot of support and a lot of help.
I feel good that I'm able to help them out, as well as getting them prepared for the real world.
I've been asking my counselor if there are any scholarships or anything like that, but I want to know about that stuff because my time is coming to an end here in high school, and I'm gonna have to start another chapter in my life, which is college. There's this new program that it's called It's Time to Bind, and it's where Ivy League colleges like Harvard, Princeton, Yale, and all these other schools that have a lot of prestige in the United States. They offer a program, and it's offered to the top 20 students in the STEM program here. They help me to impress them, basically, and they say, oh, if this person did it, then he wanted to come here, and then he wants to go to school. He shows us that he will work and that he wants to study, that he will build a future. And then they could say, well, no one else can have him. I want to show my siblings and my sister and my brother that they can do what I did too. And I want to show them that they can do even more than what I'm doing here right now if they choose to.
When we return, we'll be meeting two engineers who found their passion in creating video games, and they tell us why. Let's go to Arizona to meet a group of computer engineers who love video games. They share the same passion. Not only do they love to play, but what they enjoy the most is making video games.
I am Steve Young. I'm a software engineer here of the Gaming Center for Games and Impact. It's a great job. I love doing it. It's something I've wanted to do all my life. I absolutely live in the best environment I possibly could imagine.
I'm Michael Christensen, and I'm also a senior software engineer here, and this is the culmination of a 14-year-old me dream, being able to work in games and to make social impact like this.
One of the things I like the most about my job is that I'm learning something new every day, so I never get bored. There's always a lot of new things that are happening in the software industry.
One of the things I like most about this is being able to create things that change how people interact with learning.
When I was young, computers were just coming on the scene, and I wanted to find a way to be able to have the computers roll the dice and give us that randomness so that we could fight goblins and dragons and monsters. I enjoyed doing math in school, so that actually worked out really well for me, that it played right into being able to program. So I've always liked the sciences and the math.
My first experience with a computer was actually through an Atari, through a video game. So I instantly knew I wanted to make games. And then I started learning how to program on my own, and then found friends that were programmers. When I was getting into college age, the internet was just starting to spread out, and colleges weren't teaching anything about that.
Right.
And so I ended up doing that stuff on my own, and what led me to my career was a path between interacting with friends and interacting with college.
Pizza's definitely the brain power behind game programming. So today there's Arduinos and Raspberry Pi, and you can program those to make robotics.
Pizza definitely does play into it. Having hacking sessions with your friends, like showing each other cool tech and just grabbing hardware together.
When I was first starting off, I was playing more, but as I got to programming, I actually almost would have to say that I actually enjoy programming the games almost more than I enjoy playing.
I was gonna say the same thing, yeah. For me, as a programmer, creating the games is funner for me than playing.
Yeah. Whenever you're programming, you will always have bugs and problems, and so when you find a bug, then you fix that one, and then you'll find a new one, and then you gotta fix that one, and you find a new one. So it's kind of a cycle of you code a little bit, and then go find your mistakes, fix your mistakes, and then go back and code a little bit more.
It's really important to build that community aspect, to look at when you enter this realm, you're not competing with other people, you're building and joining a community.
And there's nothing like going out and just creating your new world with your own creatures and your own challenges.
My recommendation would be to join meetups, to find your interest. Don't solely focus on what your major is going to be, what your minor is going to be. Explore, experiment, and don't be so hyper-focused on one specific way of doing things. Really broaden your horizons.
Now let's meet a computer programmer from New York City. He came from El Salvador to the US, and after trying to make it in the music industry, changed careers. He is now a very successful professional in the computer field.
My name is Olsen. I'm from El Salvador. I came to New York when I was 12 years old. I'm a programmer and multimedia designer, and I'm about to begin my doctorate at New York University. And when I got to the US, I learned English in high school, where I formed a rock band. After graduating, I tried to pursue a career in music, but things didn't work out. So I decided to go back to school, and after 16 months, I completed an associate's degree where I learned to program and create digital products. After I completed my associate's degree, I started an internship that turned into a full-time job. I worked there for 7 years. 5 of those were dedicated to my boss's daughter, who had been in an accident and she suffered brain damage. My focus at that time was to design programs that could facilitate her learning, teaching her things like the alphabet, colors, her parents' voices, and more. And that experience ignited a passion in me to learn more about how the brain works and how people learn. I applied for a master's at NYU in a program called Digital Media Design for Learning, where I focused on designing and creating a research platform where we developed learning environments using computers and different digital mediums. The system correlates the activities of a student to their brain waves. So each time the student clicks on something or a student writes something, we measure their brain activity. That way we detect their emotions. In other words, we are reading what the student is feeling while they play a game or a simulation on the web. The system consists of a helmet with 16 electrodes that goes directly on the student's head. The data is sent via Bluetooth to a computer that processes it in real time. And at that very moment, second by second, we are cataloging the user's activity along with their brainwaves. Here on the screen, what you see is a user's experience during a video game, and this information that you see here on this graphic is the emotions. For example, right here, I have a list of different emotions. This one, for example, is from Facebook, where I was reading my wall. And as you can see, different posts cause me to feel happiness, others give me frustration, etc., etc., etc. At the same time, down here, we can see the emotional response in real time, so we can see the user's emotional response data as it comes in. We are detecting user emotions in real time. This technology can be used for educational video games, simulations, when you're writing an article, reading a book. You can also use it while you work or even while you meditate. Once we build a database, we can analyze exactly what it is that student was feeling while he was interacting with the computer. We can analyze when the student is frustrated or when the student is happy. And for us, the research team, what that means is that if there is a high and constant frustration level present, the students abandon what they are learning. Now, with my PhD, I want to continue investigating that domain of emotion and learning. My advice to Latino students that want to learn how to code is perseverance and to regulate your frustration levels, because it is hard at the beginning, but once you learn one programming language, all other programming languages will come easily since they are very similar.
When we return, we are going to the New York Museum of Natural Science to meet someone who has made environmental protection his passion. On our next story, we will talk about the environment. We are going to the Museum of Natural History in New York to meet Santiago Flores, an environmentalist who will share with us his personal story and the work he does for the future of our planet.
My name is Santiago Flores. I am an educator in environmental conservation. I'm Colombian, and I work at the American Museum of Natural History in New York City. An environmental conservation educator teaches people about the environment, the different problems humanity is facing due to global warming, and how to find the best solutions. The first step is to understand what the environment is, all the wonders of the natural world that surround us. The second step is to talk about the problems we are facing, problems such as global warming, the acidification of the oceans, and deforestation. The third is to talk about what steps we can take to find solutions, not only at the individual level, but also at the institutional level through legislative action. I started in this career when I was studying and training in anthropology. In one of my expeditions in the country, I had the opportunity to get to know the culture of the Kogi tribe. The Kogis are an ancient civilization from Sierra Nevada in Colombia. They do have a very different view of nature than we have. While we in the Western world see nature as a separate entity from us, they see nature as an integral part that unifies all of us and everything. And they understand that without nature, we humans simply cannot exist. And since then, and after observing everything that is happening in Colombia, the United States, and all around the world, I got interested in environmental conservation. After I finished my career as an anthropologist, I applied for Col Futuro, which is a government program in Colombia that financed my studies at NYU. There I received my master's degree in environmental conservation education, which means I'm an educator in environmental related issues. And during 2 years I worked on my master's, which I just received, and now I work at the museum as an educator. The Discovery Room is a very special room in the museum because it is interactive. People can come in and learn through interaction and exploration. We have all the themes that you can find throughout the museum, like dinosaurs, animals, evolution, cultures, but everything in this room works by interaction and exploration. Many of the children who visit us come from very urban areas, where the only animals they can interact with are cats and dogs, and since this is New York City, sometimes pigeons and rats. All the animals we exhibit are a way to open their minds to the wonders of nature. We have insects, lizards, we have snakes, tarantulas, and what we try to do is teach them and try to make the kids feel comfortable so that they can touch them, so they can explore and learn through them about nature. For example, Marvin is a very special animal. He's a gecko originally from Pakistan and Afghanistan regions, but what makes him so special is he's an albino. So this gives me an opportunity to talk to the students about albino animals and their genetics. We can also talk about strategies of adaptation, and I like to talk about how animals adapt to global warming. Lizards, like many other reptiles, cannot control their body temperatures as mammals do. Therefore, if there's any temperature change in the environment around them, it affects them a lot. It affects their ability to move around, and it greatly affects their population numbers. Insects are fascinating to me because most people have a phobia of them. It's very interesting to me when I see adults coming here being very afraid of insects. So one of our tasks is to show people that insects are an important part of nature and very important for humans. We talk about their role in our environment and their role in our future. For example, a study by the United Nations says that we will have to eat more insect-based food to have a more sustainable society. The most fulfilling aspect of being an environmental educator is the possibility of exploring and learning how wonderful and amazing the world around us is. I would invite students that are interested in this subject to consider pursuing a career in environmental conservation, because they will not only learn about the marvels of nature, but also learn about ways to contribute to society and help guarantee the survival of the human species.
Just remember that almost everything around us has to do with a STEM career. Our future is in these disciplines. To find more information about any of the careers that we saw today or any others, visit our website where you can find a lot of information about going to college, financial aid, and much more. Thanks for being with us on this amazing journey, and we hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Goodbye.